Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's webinar. We have today Krishna from Lander, and I'm super excited to have him speak to you guys today. He is a former digital marketing person and has spent years kind of playing in that space, and about 4 years ago, so sorry guys. Sorry about that, guys. So our guest speaker today, we're going to be talking all about landing pages, how to build them, what should be on them, and we have a great expert with us today. Krishna from Lander is here. He's founded his company a little over 4 years ago now after a career as a digital marketing person, and we are super excited to have him with us today and have a great presentation for you. We're going to go through his presentation, and then at the end, if you have any questions or would like some feedback on your own personal landing pages, post your link in the comments below, or if you're on Google+, you can use the questions app. If you're on YouTube, it's in the comments, or just let us know. We're also on Twitter today, hashtag SM for Higher Ed. So if you'd like to follow along the Twitter conversation, please do as well. And without further ado, we're going to let our guest speaker take it over. Welcome, Krishna.
Thank you so much for the introduction. And hello, everybody out there. As Cassandra correctly said, I am indeed the Lander CEO. I used to have a career in digital marketing. A lot of my time was spent in email marketing, paid search marketing, social media marketing. You know, I've been there, done that, probably faced a lot of the problems that you might be facing right now. And what I'm looking forward to doing today is really introducing the concept of a well thought out landing page, especially in the educational space. We know that the educational space is somewhat behind in terms of the digital marketing best practices. Not to say that you aren't following them, it just so happens that not everybody is 100% aware of what is going on. So today's focus will really be around the idea of how a landing page can help you help your college or university in terms of the goals that you're trying to go after. So without any further ado, I am going to share my screen and we will go from there. Give me a moment, please. Okay. No. Here we go. Okay, so desktop. Start screen. Right. So, yeah, educational landing pages is our goal. You can reach me at kcshastry@landerapp.com in case you have any questions afterwards. And here we go. So one of the things that social media does very well is it does almost everything very well, which is to say you can potentially run contests, create like pages on Facebook, for example, disseminate content, meaning if you have a blog or if you have some new information for your students or what have you, social media is a quick way to get those thoughts across. Not necessarily reaching out to everybody, but for the large part, that social experience has people talking about it. Another really cool way to use social media is to share students' experiences, either before going to school or during going to school or after the fact. You know, as testimonials go, a student's story really is a measure of how well the teaching organization or the curriculum that they've taken part in is effective in terms of turning a student's life around. We all know that education is essentially a way to better yourselves, hopefully financially or even otherwise, right? And so students' stories, students' experiences really do very well in the social media spectrum. Attracting future, clearly a goal a lot of universities have. and that's a given, I guess. Connecting students with answers that they need. Now that's something that I find really interesting. It's a real-time mechanism that social media allows you to interact with maybe one or two students, but the fact of the matter is, after you've posted that answer, other students who might have that question a couple days later, a couple months later, a couple years later, will still see those answers. And the fact that you're able to answer them very quickly is a really cool way that social media works. It's not to say it's any different from email, but it's not nearly as bland or boring. And of course, it's more like a forum, a social forum, if you will. One of the ways I've used social media in the past is to use paid ads. And paid Facebook traffic tends to be amongst the cheapest forms of paid trafficking that you can do for attracting new users, new customers, new subscribers, in this case, new students to your marketing campaigns. And what it does is it allows you to really jump deep into what is important to you. I mean, for example, you might have a student group of 16-year-olds to, say, 20-year-olds who you think might come to your university or college, either in a 2-year form or after. Now, 16-year-olds might seem a little young, but at the end of the day, these 16 to 17 to 18-year-olds are the ones who need to be marketed to get them to actually come and realize, okay, this is a place I can go to school for, and things like that. So that's one thing. Another thing that Facebook really lets you do outside of the age targeting is it allows you to target based on demographics, like people who, for example, might be making X amount of money. For example, if you have a professional training program and you want to attract people who might want to be making more money, that's another way of doing it. So it gives you a lot of options. I'm not really going to go into too much depth about it, but it's something that you should probably consider doing if you haven't already. Landing pages tend to be a very specific kind of entity. Now, a website tends to have a lot of shares, links, information, but not necessarily all of it on one very specific goal. The goal of a landing page really needs to be one singular activity, and I came up with a list of a few that I could think of, and I'm sure there are more. So summer courses, study abroad courses, I guess, one-day courses, vocational training, extension courses, corporate training, collegiate conferences, distance or virtual courses, and or sign up for admission information. Now, I think all of these kind of fall into the category of where a landing page kind of fits in. And I'm sure I'm missing a few, but you guys can chime in and tell me what I'm missing. Social media and landing pages working together tend to have a little bit of a broader spectrum. You can do things like video campaigns, student stories, as we spoke to earlier, alumni events, fundraising, collegiate athletics, paid social ads, as I mentioned before, tend to convert a lot better when you create a landing page that's not off-site. For example, if you're running a Facebook campaign to acquire new students to your university, instead of sending them to a website or your .edu website, if you keep them in your Facebook page and have a landing page in there, you're going to see a lot higher conversions. People don't like to leave the medium that they're already in because it distracts from what they might have been trying to do earlier. You got to remember that Facebook is not really about a directive. Not everyone is there with the intent of making a purchase or doing something. They might just be there to hang out. So you want to keep them occupied, but not to the point where they have to leave Facebook or something like that. Interactions that do more than acquiring likes are really where social media and landing pages work together. And as I mentioned earlier, raising funds, interacting with alumni, and acquiring new students. Those are really the ones that have staying power for you. What I wanted to get into now is what makes up a click-through landing page, and I have a couple of other variations, but I wanted to talk to you as to how you can make a landing page that will work effectively for you. And so in this skeleton example, it's basically a template, right? And what I'm trying to convey to you is essentially how easy and what all and the elements that you need in order to create a very effective landing page. So in this case, the first element, number one, is where you would place your headline. The headline needs to be catchy, and it needs to be to the point, and it needs to be short. So it really is your call to action when someone lands on your page. They need to know immediately what this page is about. A subheadline can have a little bit more information. That's number two in this. And what the subheadline will do for you is it'll give you the opportunity to expand a little bit more into what this page is about. So, for example, if the first thing was headline, the headline was going to be something along the lines of sign up for admission information. Then in the second item, which would be the subheadline, you'd be speaking about fall, summer, or spring, etc., etc. Now, number three is kind of important here because it's if someone knows exactly what they're coming to your page for, they'll probably look at 1 and 2 and say, oh, this is exactly what I need. So number 3 would be your first CTA. It's a button, but that CTA also needs to be a, CTA, by the way, stands for call to action. So it needs to stand out. It needs to appeal to the users. A click-through landing page, I should probably tell you, is a landing page that basically wants the user to click from on this page onto the next step of the process. Next step can be any number of things. It can be a lead form, a purchase, it can be a download, really anything under the sun, but this is where the conversion's happening. This is where you're really selling whatever it is that you're trying to sell. So number 4 would be an image or a video. I highly, highly recommend video over images, but a decent quality video is hard to come by. You would need to be able to create decent quality video, which isn't really cell phone based, more like a semi-pro camera, good sound, but not too scripted. And those tend to do very well versus overly produced video, unless of course you're in a space like an advertising space. So that's a different story. So number 5 is like the key component. This is like the meat of where your user will find value. A landing page is something that people scan through very quickly. If there's too much content, then they're going to be bogged down and maybe lose some interest. And so it's in your best interest to create bullet points of benefits, and kind of speaking to what 1 and 2 were talking about. So 1, 2, 5 are all very much aligned with one another. 4 should be, but it's harder to do when it's an image, though with a video you can make 4 become a part of 5, essentially. Number 6, now this is really important. Having a testimonial or 2 from real people, real quotes, ideally video testimonials, do so much for click-throughs. People love videos that have this sort of information. So yeah, and then number 7 is essentially number 3, which is a call to action. The reason you have 2 calls to action is because one needs to assume that if the user is on page and scrolls down, you have a second call to action, which is the same as the earlier one. And because they scroll down, it's easier to find the next step down here. So it's always important to have one towards the top and one at the bottom of your page for a call to action. Ideally, you would take no more than a single page fold for a landing page, which really means 2 pages, top to bottom. That's the ideal length of a landing page. So I'm going to actually jump into what some click-through landing pages look like. Let's talk through what's working, what's not. Here we go. So this is a single page landing page, and it's it sticks to pretty much what I'd been speaking to earlier. They have a headline and they have a subheadline, though in their case their subheadline is more of a couple of paragraphs. However, it has a lot of information, and it actually kind of repeats some of the information that you see in the benefits also. However, it's a static page. It has a picture of students sitting around in a circle. It's a summer session. It's pretty obvious to me what it does. It has a single click-through, so you don't have to follow this example, but if you do follow this example, when your page is longer, it makes more sense. In this example, since the page is not so long, it makes sense for them to keep it short. This is what I call a really good landing page because it doesn't have any extraneous links. This is really important for users to realize that you want only one link. A single link is the one and only action you can really take on this page other than to exit. So this is why a landing page is created, to have one and only one call to action. And here, in this case, it says click here to explore your course options. That's reason enough. So lead generation landing pages were slightly different from the earlier example of click-through landing pages, right? The difference really being you have a lead form. Notice 2, 3, and 4 are where, so number 4 is where the lead form exists. And the organization of this page is not very different from the earlier example, but it is a little different. And the difference is that you can either use a video or an ebook or a picture, an ebook cover or a picture for number 1, right? And then number 2 would be your headline, number 3 would be your subheadline, number 4 needs to be your form. And the form being at the top of the page is really important because it tells the visitor that this is the action that needs to happen. Whether or not they take that action immediately is besides the point, because you always have more information available after the fact. So number 5 in this case is a summary of the ebook's contents, or a summary of of whatever else you have going on, or it can even be testimonials for that matter. It doesn't have to be ebook, but clearly this template was based on ebooks. Number 6 would be the benefits, right? The benefits are, again, really important. And notice under the form, there's a blue button not indicated, but it's also a CTA, whereas number 7 is also your CTA. You always have 2 CTAs if it's a longer page. So let's take a look at a couple of these examples here. So this is Greenwich College, English College. And it's actually not based in the United States. It looks like it's based in Australia. They are customers of ours, and they use enroll with a single L, not a double L that we're used to, which is apparently still normal. So anyway, they have a logo. They have an interesting function on their page where they've used arrows to highlight what's really important for their users, and to the point that they've actually even gone over some of what the testimonial has below. But the idea for them, it looks like, is essentially get them to click through. And they didn't really have to go through that, but they did. Having that highlighted is fine. I just feel like it kind of ruins the form. So I don't know if you can see my arrow.
Mm-hmm.
can you see my arrow?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, right here is kind of what I would avoid because it just looks bad, to be quite honest. But the rest of the page is fairly self-explanatory. It gives you benefits, it gives you testimonial, it gives you a couple of pictures, smiling students, and the action that you're trying to take, right? So they have a phone number and they have a learn more button. In an ideal case, the best practices suggest that you have a phone number if you have a phone center that's going to answer calls 24/7 or during work hours. But you know, ideally, you only have one action. I would probably take the telephone number out and stick to just a lead form so you can call them when it's convenient for them. This is just a larger section of the first page, right? Which speaks to this is really where, again. Okay, so the way I would explain it is this top portion is really all the information you need. But if you needed more information, it would be down here. And so that's what they've done here. They've chosen to highlight it with a box, a colored box. It says, okay, this is really what it is. And the fact that they're using the word free tends to lead to a higher conversion rates. So that's something that you need to consider using sparingly, but using all the same. This is just a continuation of earlier, but it gives you an idea of how they've used images to portray what they're saying in words. So it kind of helps you identify both visually and verbally as to what they are trying to offer, right? And what students say in arrows. So this is cool too. I think a single testimonial works, and it actually tells you a little bit more about what it is that they're trying to do. And also, honestly, it looks like Petra here, actually wrote this, which is good. If it looks like it was, you know, written by a marketer, you can tell that also. So that's really important. This is another side-by-side example of a Yale summer session, but in reality, this left section is one page and this is another page. I decided to put both of them onto one page just to kind of give you a sense of where a page fold begins or ends. In this case, it's a summer session online course, and the goal is getting the student's name and email. That's all they want. And notice that this form is really short. The fact that the form has 4 fields or less makes your conversion rates go up through the roof. It's always something very important to remember. The more fields you ask for in a form, the less likely you're going to see a high conversion rate. People just don't want to fill out more information. They want to fill out as little as possible. In fact, I would even go with first name and email alone, just for the sake of getting the email address, because after the fact, if they're really interested, they can then, you know, sign up for the courses through other links through your emails, right? So you'll see an even higher conversion rate. What's interesting here with this page is that they've decided to use a testimonial right at the top of the page, and they use the quotation mark without a picture. That works too. The placement, in my mind, is interesting, and I think it really fulfills an obligation for them, where they give you the courses, they tell you what the benefits are, they give you a lead form, and it gives you a subheading as well as it gives you a testimonial. So it kind of encompasses everything together. But if you really wanted more information, then you'd go into these bullet points down below, and potentially even a video after the fact. So this is actually a really good landing page. And it's interesting that they decided to use a the tuition, but they only put it at the bottom of the page. So not everyone's going to find it there. If tuition might be a turnoff for students, maybe it makes sense to put it at the bottom. That's something you would have to test, and that's the beauty of landing pages. You're always testing something, either content, video, pictures, format, design, all sorts of things. There's a lot of work that goes into perfecting a landing page, but it isn't always that hard to create one. So
lots of great information.
Thanks. Did you have any questions? Did you want to step in for a second and ask me something?
These are great so far. So when people are thinking about landing pages and these lead captures, then and really thinking about, they really should be thinking about what information are they looking to get before they build their landing page then, right? Do I need the student's first and last name and year in high school? Or do I just need a first name and a phone number? How is this going to relate to our campaign? Maybe if they knew, kind of thought about that information in the beginning, it might help them in building a landing page that might be better converting for what they're looking for. Would you recommend that?
I think that's a great idea, Cassandra. And I think a part of that is because the form fill, as in this example that we're looking at right now, is literally name and email. And clearly these folks aren't an EDU, so maybe they don't need the first and last name.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you definitely need to think about the kind of information you are trying to acquire. And once you figure that out and you figure out the bare minimum that you can get away with, that's what you start with. And then you create content around it. I totally agree with that.
Excellent.
Yeah, so this is an example of a landing page someone created on our platform. And it's really short. It's really small. It's really compact. It actually does a lot. Unfortunately, I can't play this video for you, but the fact that they have a video that has a fun-looking image, that's really important. You have to remember that having a video by itself is great, but having a video in a situation like this, where there's someone actually drawing something, or a fun-looking image, or something that one would call clickbait, is really important. So you need to think about everything that you use in terms of the media that you're using. And while the video is great, I suspect that they aren't offering enough information for the users to potentially get interested enough to find out more. But maybe I'm wrong. I would have gone with maybe a bullet point approach rather than a solid chunk of paragraph of text, to be quite honest. But that's a trial by fire. You need to try what will work for you and what won't work, and what doesn't work for you, and you'll find out soon enough based on the conversion rates that you're seeing.
Excellent.
Yeah, and so this is this is a college to learn how to be a chef, and that's cool. And I actually think this is a reasonably well built page if you think about it, because it shows the kind of cuisines people might have the opportunity to choose from, and it shows you what looks like stock images, to be quite honest, of chefs. Maybe using a picture of a real chef would be more useful, and maybe a little bit more content in terms of just words. Not really enough words here. Look at this lead form. It's gigantic. They have 1, 2, 3, 4 required fields, but the fact that there are 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, assume 9 components to click on or fill in, it might be just a little bit much for the user in terms of clicking through. This is something you can actually ask for after the fact, right? So once you find out what their full name is and their email address and or telephone number, stop right there, you know. And then send them an email afterwards finding out more. That way you do it in steps and stages rather than losing them right at the beginning. So
And that probably helps too to build the, to build the relationship, right?
absolutely, absolutely.
To reach out and somebody's going to contact them back and give them more information and really start that conversation.
Yeah, I think these guys went a little too quick, too early. And you're absolutely right. It's all about relationship building, CRM, customer relationship management. That's really what you want to do here. So yeah, while the pictures are nice, they honestly look too much like stock photographs for me, except for the bottom left. The restaurant management doesn't look nearly as stocky, but you would want to use pictures of real people, not models, in order to get higher conversion rates. And you can test this. You know, you can put a real person's someone from your college versus a stock image, and you will see the conversion rates increase. It's unbelievable how people react with distaste towards stock imagery. This is yet another landing page with a lead form, a very short lead form at that, and it's a certificate for IB, from the looks of it, to study in Vancouver. Why not? So you have not only a pretty place to study, but you also have great connections to make, and those are the 2 points that I've seen very quickly. You know, it gives you options. It even has a social media like. Now, this is social proof that they're adding. 11,000 likes isn't something to sniff at. Though, in my mind, having a like page like this is not so bad. Having these links at the bottom, though, are a little tricky for me to work with, because what happens is when you include a link, you have people essentially being open to clicking away, and this is something you really want to avoid, unless of course you enable a feature where you have the link open up in a new tab. It doesn't make sense for you to create links on a landing page. So I'm seeing a couple of mistakes on their end with the Canadian Institute of Management, which makes sense because it's the people who are offering the program. But at the end of the day, you want them to submit right here, submit on this. And honestly, the word submit also doesn't really work for me. What am I submitting, or who am I submitting to, right? At the end of the day, I would want, and also the fact that they have a program instead of program, that's not going to be good for anybody. So definitely change the subheadlines. Check your spelling. Make sure you have capitals in all your headlines. For example, 5 reasons to study. I would capitalize S as well. So they have a couple of things going.
Looks like they have a few typos in there.
Yeah. Built fairly quickly from the looks of it. Definitely check to make sure you don't have typos. But the original point was try not to have links that link outside of your page. The minute you start doing those things is when you start seeing drop-offs in conversion rates. So this is another example of Wilson College. What I did here is I basically zoomed out to encompass and cut the whole page and show it on the template here. But essentially the idea that these guys have is they have a really happy, smiling student, and clearly a student of their own, not necessarily a model. They have, reasons for students to want to be interested in the program, mostly monetary from the looks of it, and they have a humongous lead form. That's unfortunately a big no-no. We talked about it earlier. Definitely reduce the size of your lead form. The fact that it encompasses so much space is also worrisome. I would probably cut down the size of the form to maybe half, if not a quarter, and use that extra space to improve the content that you're generating for your students. That can be either videos, testimonials, success stories. Any of those things will really, really help improve this page. Another one from them, but it's a grad program. And here they have information about the professors, which is really good. That also has a lead form, which has 7 required fields, which is a lot, or 8, including the program of interest. Now, I would argue that I could argue this 2 ways. I could say, okay, from point A, this is too much information that you're asking for, but from point B, this is a graduate business program that the students are already visiting. At this point, one would make the assumption that they might be interested in 1 or more programs, and so I wouldn't say this is too many fields that you require, but it's getting close to that. I would probably reduce. You know what? I would probably take out city and state and just ask for zip, because the zip code for you will tell you what the city and the state is anyway.
Exactly. Those are some hacks that I don't think people would think about, but you're right. You don't really need to ask that if you're going to ask this other quantifying factor.
Exactly. Exactly. So there's that. Now a webinars landing page. This is something that we could use today. And so a webinars landing page is not very different, again, from the previous landing page. What does a webinar want to do? It informs the user as to when something's happening, what that something is, finds out the information so that we can send you a follow-up email saying this is what's going on. So number 1 is the headline, number 2 is the subheadline, number 3 is the form, number 4 is the benefits, number 5 would be a smiling picture of the host, number 6 would be the benefits, and number 7 is the CTA. Fairly easy. Not really hard to do. Here's an example of a landing page that we've used in the past to do landing page live critiques. And rather than a smiling picture of myself, we decided to use a background picture of Lander on a computer, with a time, name information, finding out what your landing page URL is. Notice that the color of the button for the register now is orange. The font is white. But what's really, really important, and you need to remember in landing pages, is that the orange contrasts very effectively with that bluish background. The fact that those two work so pleasingly helps increase conversion rates. So it's not the color of the buttons that you use, it's really the color contrast that works between the foreground and the background that really helps how people engage with your page. Something to keep in mind. So this is another webinar landing page. You have the 2 users, two hosts, I'm sorry, and then you have a story. And interestingly enough, they have a story as to how a stranger walks up to you, introduce themselves, etc., etc. You learn about bad websites, email copy. And the benefits is really, it's more of a story. It follows on from the story rather than saying, here are the benefits. I would probably click through because it seems interesting. And the guy has an interesting mustache. That's actually pretty cool, too. So, yeah.
Very true, though. If that's going to be the person, think about, your audience. Is that going to be a pleasing image to them? They can see that there is going to be a human on the other side.
Yep.
So it might be a great idea if you've got, an advisor or a faculty member of your program, maybe including a headshot. That relatability factor for sure might be something that could draw people in and say, oh, that looks like somebody I could relate to. I want to hear from them.
Exactly. Yeah, you want to make sure you don't look like a clown, but definitely have fun. That's the thing about these webinars. We like to do it because we like to disseminate information. We like to help people learn. And it gives us an opportunity to speak with people that we wouldn't otherwise. So that's what they're probably here to do too. Another another one here I like here is the picture of the lady. She makes it herself instantly relatable. That's what drew my eye to my eyes got drawn to her first amongst anything else on this. And it's a very personal picture. And beyond that, the form is really easy to click through to. Best practices, you learn what you're up to, you learn who they are, and it's really short, simple, and doesn't really confuse the user as to what this page is. So this is actually my
Oop, I think we froze there, Shastry. Krishna, hello? Oop.
so that
There
I
you
can
go.
go through them. Sorry?
Nope, we're back. You just froze for a second there. We're good.
Oh, okay, cool. So I'm here looking at a few landing pages to kind of give them a little bit of critique. So these were submitted to us earlier. We had 2, I believe, submitted. And
Yep.
this is the Thomas More College, and interesting to me that this is a landing page. In my mind, landing pages tend to have very few outside links. So in a case like this, I am seeing either outside links or links away from the content. And this really isn't really good for you to get people to click through, right? And you also have a lot of form information and a solid block of text. But you also have a video, which is really good.
My name is Mike Walton.
That really works. One of the things. Okay, so without completely destroying this page, because that's my first.
But we could definitely pop out, you know, this content about a campus visit, you know, could very easily become its own landing page.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe
Yeah, by itself, it
that
can
page.
definitely be it, and then you can have a lead form, which doesn't need so much information, or you can do it in two parts. You know, it doesn't all have to be in one page. I can see why you have this to avoid spam. But yeah, like what you really want to really not have is these sidebar navigational links, admissions, etc., etc. These 3 actually work for me because they give the local populace a reason to say, okay, these guys are recognized by someone, so that's good. There's certificates of recognition. That's great. You know, in an ideal world, you will not have any of this stuff going on. The picture of people walking away in flowers, you know, it does something but doesn't do enough. It tells me, yes, it's about a campus, but it doesn't really tell me much more. Maybe you can use you know, 6 images instead of a single image to convey more activities that might be happening. You know, kind of give it a more dynamic perspective.
You're right. It really doesn't help the student or prospective student see themselves there.
Exactly.
Do those people look like me? Are they interesting? Can I put myself in the scene? We don't really get very much of that with that picture.
No, not at all. And you know, another thing that I do here is really break up the text. It's a solid block of text. It can easily be 3 paragraphs, if not more. Basically, making it a subheadline, and then talk about the benefits with the story. And yes, definitely use this video. The fact that it's 30 seconds or less is awesome. The fact that any video is less than a minute tends to convert very highly. And maybe I'd autoplay this video. I wouldn't necessarily leave it as a static video. That tends to draw the user towards the video. Let's see what's happening at the end. So this is actually something that I noticed not all colleges or institutions do. Yeah, okay. So what you want to do is you want to turn off these suggestions. And you can do that from your YouTube account. because what happens is if I click on this, then it'll take me somewhere else, right? So you don't really want that, and it has nothing to do with you. So definitely look at other ways to keep the people on your page at all times. Did you have any other suggestions, Cassandra?
That's excellent. I feel like, you know, this might be a good a good page within your current website, but then, you know, if you're trying to, you know, put Facebook ads and maybe you're going to try to drive traffic to an open house or an event, maybe a freshman preview event, and you're going to dump them off on this page, you're leaving them some opportunities to get lost, right? If we're trying to get them to sign up for this, you know, is it clear? Is it obvious at the top of the page, or, you know, what we call above the fold, below the fold? Is it very simple and easy for a student and or a parent to navigate, right? So if we know that, you know, the average student has a, you know, attention span less than a goldfish, right? Average human is what, 9 seconds now. We don't want to scare them off with, you know, all of, oh gosh, I got to fill in all this stuff. I just wanted to go to the preview day. Like, what's going on? You know, that a cleaner, more simple landing page might be a great complement for that Facebook ad or what we're trying to push behind it to get signups for students instead of just dumping them off into our website. Exactly. The other part that they could do is also, once they have collected that information, having that, you know, the secondary page where it clicks through, maybe that then gives them more information. Maybe that's where you might have an extra video or content, or follow up with an academic advisor, or meet with your admissions counselor. And then you can kind of give them some breadcrumbs and lead them where you want them to go next. When we just dump them off on our university landing website, those aren't always the best or most intuitively designed. And so that can be kind of a challenge, you know, for that 16, 17-year-old that we're trying to catch, you know, come visit campus. It's pretty. We have flowers. Right. So, so what are we really trying to get the student to do?
Exactly. And, you know, I think this is a good place to plug in my, my tool. But basically, what our landing page tool does is it offers you the ability to create these single page entities. Yes, but I've spoken to it at length, but what it also lets you do is it lets you use the URL that you want to use. So if you want to use the thomasmore.edu URL, you can use a custom domain URL with us, and so it doesn't look like you're sending traffic to another site. It looks like it's a part of your site. And so you can keep the same kind of branding, same kind of engagement levels, and you can have the same kind of click-throughs driving traffic through to you. And we also offer a decent amount of integrations with all sorts of tools, any sort of email tool you might be using, Facebook integration, you know, pretty much the works. We even do Google Analytics if you're using Google Analytics. You only need to talk to your IT person once. After that, it's all you. That's really our driving focus. It takes you 30 minutes or less to create a landing page. You can use one of hundreds of templates that we have, and essentially at the end of the day, you know, you're off to the races on your own. You don't ever have to talk to anybody else about what you need to get done, because you can do it yourself. That's the power we're trying to offer you. So we'd love for you to check us out. And I think Cassandra will send a promo code to you guys afterwards, and we'll be happy to help you with whatever it is you need.
That would be excellent. Yes, please. We'll definitely post that for our viewers in here. It really does. I mean, the layouts, the templates, it makes it very simple to understand, very easy to see the methodology behind it, so that way you're not starting from scratch. You're not attempting to, you know, reinvent the wheel. These are, you know, best practices that other universities, other businesses that are using out there, and they're getting great conversion for it. They're able to get the numbers that you're looking for. And it's all done for you to plug and play your content, which is great. Krishna, we've got one from USF. Sent you the link for that. If we could check that one out. It seems to be more like a true landing page for this pre-college.
Did you send it to my email?
I can. Yep, it's in chat. Let me grab it for you.
Hold on a second. Let me disengage. Give me a second. And Google Hangouts. It's in chat. Here we are. This one? Okay. So, ooh, yeah. This does look like a landing page.
A little bit different. Looks like it's for a summer program as well. Summer programs seem to work well with these landing page options here.
Okay, so I like this page. The person who created this has definitely done something interesting here, which is they've managed to encompass all their information within 2 pages, as I rightly mentioned earlier. What I don't see here is a clear call to action. You know, it says summer programs, explore your future, view programs. Oh, I see. Ooh. I would do something to make these seem more clickable. Other than that I am able to click on them just by, you know, rolling over them, but I wouldn't have known otherwise. So make it more obvious, right? And yeah, this is actually really cool.
Looks like they kind of left off any sort of, you know, information capture. Might be a great opportunity.
What they seem to have done instead is they've gone to fill for, after I click on it, they have a form fill, right?
Okay.
And it has more information. This is cool. You know what I would do here? I would even say, instead of saying view programs, I'd say click on programs below. Now you have to understand that the user is not always the smartest cookie, you see. You have to tell them what it is that you want them to do, and then they'll figure it out very quickly. For example, I was pretty dumb by saying I don't know what the thing is, but here it is. It's pretty easy once I figure it out. Some people might not get it. I really like this. I would actually do one of 2 things for this page. I'd probably choose to go center align with both the icons and the view programs portion, just because it has a lot of white space, which makes it seem like it's missing something. Or the other option is to fill in the space with maybe some testimonials. I think that might work very well too. Or maybe a video testimonial or 2. Or
oh wow, yeah.
You know, something that lends credence to the value of what these programs are for students. So
it makes sense too when you're talking about it, because if you think if someone had landed on this page on a mobile device, right, they're not going to have mouse over. So how are they going to know that that's a link and not a graphic?
That's
right? Especially if you're targeting young people, they're on their phones, right? We do a lot of our web surfing. You know, they're not like parents who are sitting at their desktop at work. These are really, you know, these kids could be, you know, on their phone trying to follow this information.
Absolutely correct. I didn't even think of it. You're totally on point. You would not see this if you were in a mobile device. Is this, do we know if this is, by any chance, responsive?
I do not know. It's my own campus.
It is responsive. Yes.
Okay.
So the fact that, so just for you folks out there, responsiveness means that you're able to, the page kind of realigns when you are making the screen smaller. So the way I've made the screen smaller here is how it would appear on a mobile device, and that tells you it is responsive. So yeah, I have that, and I actually have one last one. I know we're running out of time here, but this is another one that was submitted to us. I didn't want to miss it. Basically, this is more, well, this is more or less like a page within a website, which acts like a landing page. You know, I know that these are the 2 CTAs here, but they don't look like CTAs. They just look like URLs. If you can make these buttons, or even split them up apart a little bit, or maybe have this photograph a little higher, move the request for more information below, move the start your application below, and then have 2 different colors to denote the differences between the 2, that would work very well. Additionally, let's take a look at this, American EDU. Um, okay, so what I just immediately noticed is clicking here does not give me the ability to start my application from that next page. So if you need to look at, the way to look at a landing page environment is if you need to have links going in different directions, you need to have the same calls to action on those different pages as well. So let's take a look at biotechnology. Is that the same? They have request more information here to start your application. So they do actually have it, but they haven't demarcated it differently enough. Creating maybe a button environment, like I said earlier, would really work. Yeah, and maybe a little bit more about, see this green space right here doesn't do much for me. You need to maybe have like 2, maybe 4 pictures of what it is that grad students do, something cool about biotech. Or maybe jobs that they will eventually find. Something more than just that. That's a lot of wasted space in my mind. How are we doing for time?
We're good. We got plenty. Take as much as you need.
Okay, I was rushing through this. Same problem here. They do have these links, but these links need to be buttons. Do the same here. So I think across the board, this design needs to be somewhat changed. A secondary factor here is this. The amount of information here is just a lot for me to deal with, a lot for anybody to deal with. Serve it up in small and easy to bite-sized pieces, basically. Bullet points. Talk about what it is that you can do. Talk about maybe what it is people do after the fact, right? It's not only what you'll study, but it's what the students who studied your program have gone on to do. That'll give people a little bit more appeal as to how a degree might benefit them, in case they weren't aware of it. So that would be my thought. Also, if you can include some alumnus, if you will, into this sort of page demographic, I think that would really be cool. Yeah. Yeah, so so I think the takeaways here are reduce the amount of information you're giving, but make sure that the information is still relevant to the student. Make sure that there's more images, potentially some video content, alumnus and what they have gone on to do or what they thought about the programs. And yeah, I think that would really be the way forward. Right now, it looks like a lot of what a lot of EDUs out there are doing.
Yeah,
right?
and really a lot of their content could probably be really great for a video, right? So they're talking about, hey, we transitioned into careers in foreign service, government, NGOs. That would make a great 30-second video and clean up the page a lot.
Yeah.
And then up here at the top, quote from a student. Well, duh, it has a student, but it doesn't have a name. It just says GP student.
Yeah.
But it's got quotes, so obviously it's a quote from a student. But
right.
Thinking about how does this sound natural? Sometimes we get writing and we get copy from our departments or from faculty, and it's written in faculty speak. It's not written in 22-year-old speak and what's going to resonate with them. Yeah. So how are we? If people are deciding whether or not to come to our programs, they have to be able to picture themselves there. Does it sound interesting? Is this going to make someone choose your college or your program over another college or program? Right? If this is how they're making their decision in 2016, this is really something we want to be cognizant of.
Absolutely. Yeah. Those are really good points. You definitely know your stuff. So yeah, on my end, I'm pretty much done with this presentation. Do you have any other questions for me, or maybe questions from the audience that I can help answer?
I think we've answered everything. I don't see anything on YouTube or Google Plus or on Twitter. I think we grabbed all of them. So yeah, This has been great. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We will edit the end of this video and we'll add some annotations to include links to Lander. So you guys can check that out. Lander is Krishna's company and helping
landerapp.com.
Landerapp.com. And to help you basically do what we just talked about, designing great landing pages for your college, your university, your programs, your departments, and helping you to kind of leverage this. Krishna, thank you so much. This has been amazing. The content today is just excellent. Really just so much information that you shared and looking at these with new eyes now. So we can't thank you enough for being here. And thank you all of our viewers for coming to hang out with us this week. We know that you guys have choice in how you spend your time doing, and thank you so much for hanging out with us. And that will do it for our webinar this week. If you have any questions, tweet us, #socialmedia4highered, SM for higher ed, tweet me. Any of those, we will get you the answers to the questions that you have. And also be sure to check out our Facebook group, Higher Ed Social. We also wanted to go here at the end and let you know again about EDU Digital Summit coming up August 1st through the 3rd in Denver. We'll include the link up here in this video. If you're interested in attending, the summit conference is actually going to give you a $100 discount for attending this webinar today. We'll include the code link EDU webinar when you register. We'll also give you the link to their conference. If you have any questions, you can reach out to the chairperson, Chris Barrows, and we'll give you his link for Twitter and his email if you have any questions about the EDU Web Digital Summit Conference coming up August 1st through the 3rd. And again, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Hope this was really informative for you. I know it was informative for me. And thank you so much to our guest speaker. We really can't thank you enough. It's been amazing. So hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.
Great, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.